Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unity Spiritual Center of Windsor's online Sunday service. So we are located in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. My name is Mariette Jones, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you. Today we have a guest speaker. Her name is Reverend Kelly Isola, and she will be sharing her wisdom and in-depth knowledge on our co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore. So the talk title is Myrtle Fillmore, Back to the Future of Unity. So fasten your seatbelts because this is going to be a fun, inspirational ride through her story and legacy and what it is calling forth in all of us. Let us open now with prayer and affirmation that Myrtle herself created and used. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies you. So I do bless each one of you. I see the divine in you. So the challenges that will come up for us this week, we affirm that we can meet each one with grace, flexibility, resilience, forgiveness. We can meet whatever comes our way because we are divine beings having a human experience. Divine love as me blesses all that comes my way. Divine love as us blesses all that comes our way. Amen, and it is so. We are thrilled to share the blessing of this song, I Am the Place Where God Shows Up. This is performed by Eddie Watkins Jr.
Am I strong enough to bear the burdens that sometimes come living this thing called life? Am I wise enough to make the right decisions when I'm standing at the fork in the road? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Will I have enough to do the things I need to do to take care of myself? Will I have the health of mind and body to live a life of grace and wholeness? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place.
I am the place where God
You
lives,
are the place.
moves and breathes and has
We
its
are the
being.
place
I am the place
where God shows up. I am the place.
I am the place where God
it with me. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up.
Eddie Watkins, Husk, can I have some more of that? Can we have some more of that? A little more? A little more.
I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up.
Eddie Watkins! Good job, brother. Outstanding. Eddie Watkins Jr.
Thank you so much, Eddie. Your music helps our souls to soak up this important message. We are the place where God shows up. Praise be. Let us turn our attention to Reverend David now, our minister at Unity Spiritual Center of Windsor. He will introduce our guest speaker, Reverend Kelly Isola.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is Reverend David Old at the Unity Spiritual Center in Windsor, Ontario. This is our online service, and we are so glad to have you here today. I am so excited because we do have a guest speaker, and that's Reverend Kelly Isola. And before I go into it, I do want you to know that after her talk, after the Facebook Live service, we will be going to our Zoom conversations with the minister, and she'll be there with us to answer your questions about her talk. But anyway, so Kelly and I, we met in 2008 when I was accepted into the Unity Institute's ministerial program, their Master Divinity program. And so she was in the class ahead of me. So I was there in part of 2008 and then part of 2009, and I had to drop out of the program when my wife at that time ended up having to have some surgeries. So I left the program and came back in 2013. Kelly graduated and was ordained in 2009, the same year that I left. And so when I came back, she was part of the Unity Institute adjunct faculty, and she was doing classes and everything. So I immediately we just had a long-term friendship, and she is so funny. She has very humorous, but one of the most caring and giving and down-to-earth people. I mean, and she tells you like it is, and I like that. She has she's a constant learner. I can tell you that right now. As soon as I got back to the ministerial school for the program in 2013, I became a member, part of the Student Association's board. And so we asked Kelly to train us. And so she's involved in all sorts of trainings and everything. Right now, she's been in transitional ministry work, helping ministries transition. I remember when I was there, Joplin, Missouri, when I was in school up there, Joplin, Missouri got hit by a major, a major tornado. It literally flattened the city, and including the Unity Church there. And so Kelly went there after the disaster, and she nurse that community back into a healthy position. She's right now working disaster work as well with the Interfaith Ministries. Anyway, a marvelous person, a woman of big heart, and I'm not going to go any longer, but I'm just delighted, Kelly, to have you here. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, David. Yeah, it's I know Mariette. Hi, Mariette. Nice to see you. And your kitty. Hi. Sorry, sometimes I'm a little informal. It's always fun when someone introduces you, because there are moments when they may say something and you're like, oh yeah, I didn't remember that. Or you listen to them and then at the end you go, wow, she sounds fabulous. Like I want to meet her. And I often feel that way because I just sort of do what I do in my world, in my work, and keep moving. And I don't always stop to pause to see, what if impact there is. And so I am refer to myself as sort of a gypsy minister, because I've spent my time in ministry, not in a particular church, but around in churches, working with churches in transition, moving through change, board trainings, congregational healing, all kinds of conflict transformation is a lot of work. And a lot of the other pieces of my ministry are about, I do a lot of teaching. I teach for the Unity Seminary. I teach for the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary and other places, obviously online. I've been teaching online forever. A lot of my work lately has been in disaster work. I lead the Missouri Interfaith Disaster Response Organization. So here in Missouri and largely in Kansas City, and. So, and it gets a little bit long, and I have to pause myself and remember that, at least I do, remind myself I'm not so much about the things I do, but what is the impetus or the passion that drives that. And that, when I start to think that way, that always reminds me of our co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore. Myrtle was, and that's what I'm talking about, is if you didn't know, yesterday was Myrtle's birthday, August 6th. And if she were here with us today, and this is going to sound really science fiction, she'd be 175. Yeah, I wouldn't even want to live that long. But that's a long time. 175. She's from Ohio. She came from Ohio, Pagetown, Ohio, and one of 7 children. Her family was very Methodist, she referred to them as very spiritual, her mother particularly committed, very committed to her faith. And so I believe that that's where Myrtle Fillmore really, it was instilled in her from a very early age of making a commitment, having conviction for what you believe and what you do and how you do it. And she also later said that, her mother's sort of brand of religion and spirit or belief in God didn't quite measure up to hers, because she couldn't ever reconcile a God that might punish you if you kind of went off the path. And she didn't say it with, when you read her writings, you don't really hear, when she talks about it, like this venom kind of thing, or like, oh my God, how could you believe in a God like that? It just occurred to her that just didn't work for her, and had immense respect for her mother because it did work for her mother. And it was okay with her mother. And she was clear that she didn't need to understand how that worked for her mother. And the reason I say all that is that I think we sometimes have a tendency to denigrate other religions and get a little spiritually arrogant in what we believe, or somehow we've evolved beyond, rather than acknowledging and honoring the path that someone's on. And the path that someone's on can be every bit as fulfilling and meaningful and with as much conviction and commitment as Myrtle had to hers, or I have to mine, or you have to yours. So the talk was, Myrtle Fillmore, Back to the Future of Unity, which is kind of I stole it from an article I wrote for Unity Magazine this past year that was just simply Back to the Future of Unity. And so I just wanted to introduce you to a little bit of Myrtle and just, a few things about Myrtle that people may not realize. Many most of the Unity movement knows Myrtle from two books, How to Let God Help You and Myrtle Fillmore's Healing Letters. And there are things to be learned from Myrtle. In the end of How to Let God Help You, she does talk about herself a little bit, and there's so much more. One of the benefits that I've had by, I went to seminary and graduated and didn't leave the area. So I've had the benefit of being close to the archives where I can go in and read, a gajillions of letters. That's a spiritual term, gajillion. I can, read all of these things that have never been published by Myrtle. Letters because people wrote in letters, and she wrote back, and there's just so much more to be learned about her than I think, it's sort of the danger of a single story. We think we know who Myrtle is based on reading, what comes out of the couple of books that we have that were published. And so it's important to remember that in those books that there is, so Healing Letters is what you're seeing is her response to someone's letter. What you never see is the letter itself. And you read enough of those, like you read that book and then you go look at, and in the archives, and you read letters where you see her response, someone wrote in and then you see her response. And I got to tell you, there are some letters that are like 16 pages long. And I want to go, oh my God, get to the point, which is Myrtle, really. Myrtle Fillmore was very much, just laser focus, laser sharp. And people often refer to Charles as the head and Myrtle as the heart. And believe it or not, that's not quite it. It's actually a little bit of the other way around, but really they're both of both. And I think it does a disservice to either one to say Charles is the head and Myrtle is the heart. In one way, it's actually it's opposite of that. If you read Charles Fillmore, pretty much anyone I know that has read Charles Fillmore has an embolism or stops in the middle of a paragraph and has to go back and read it 8 times, or reads a chapter and goes, I'm sorry, what did you just say? And not all of it, but because he's sort of stream of consciousness in many ways. And it's often someone's transcription of what he said. So you don't know what, edits may have been made. Whereas when you read Myrtle, she's very much this, and this. Like she's organized, she's got it outlined. You do this, you do, even when it comes to prayer, you do this, you do this, you do this. She equates it to mathematics, that there's a principle, there's a practice, there's an equation. You do this, then you do this, then you do this. And you don't do it over and over and over and over and over, right? So and yet there's other times she's very, very compassionate and very heartfelt. So I just leave that one with you to notice that you kind of need them both, to kind of get a fuller picture of unity. But when I say going back to the future of unity, I just want to introduce a couple things about Myrtle that you may not have known or may not have realized. And one of those is actually her education. She decided when she was young that, basically she was kind of being groomed to be a mother, to get married and have children. It wasn't about necessarily going to school or, picking a career certainly wasn't, up on the table. But for Myrtle, it was. She had several brothers and wanted to read what they were reading. And, her parents kept saying, no, those are for the boys to read. And so she would take the books, steal the books and go, under the covers, or into a closet somewhere, or just disappear with them outside into nature and read the books that the boys were reading. And she which you gotta love. I mean, if that isn't, being a feminist at 9, I don't know what is, and as a result of doing that, she wound up going to Oberlin College in Ohio. Oberlin College was actually the first school to allow women and people of color. So that's where she went. And I think, again, here's another influence of being, a pioneer, of stepping into, what's, not the norm. And she read a lot, and she read a lot of different people, and she read lots of different sources. It wasn't, which often gets missed, I think, because what gets quoted so often is scripture. But she read a lot from a lot of different sources. She even in one letter she references a sutra, the Lankavatara Sutra, which is a Vedic philosophy, and that Lankavatara Sutra is about 2,000 years old. But she references it, which tells me she read it, and then kind of unpacks it a little bit in one of the unpublished works. She is one of the things I love most about her is actually there a few things. Is one, she was absolutely committed to prayer. She was, and not necessarily in the way we may immediately think. She was committed to prayer in terms of it's work. You have work to do. It wasn't just committed to prayer, go into the silence and be still. But part of the other half of prayer is, so it was a me, we proposition, right? So there's me, I go into prayer, I do my own work, and then I go be in the world. Like take what's awakened and what's, what comes alive and what healing is going on, and go be in the world with it. She, when you read letters, she oftentimes ends the letter with something somewhere near the end to go out, as you go out into the world, as you take this into your time and place, as you, engage with, your family, as you engage with whatever the problem is. And that's the other piece that I think gets lost, is when I talk about Myrtle, Back to the Future, is when you start reading her responses, and then, you get to see some of the letters written, that the letters that are coming in, people are asking her about the ills of the day. They're asking her about alcoholism. They're asking her about marriage. They're asking her about how to raise children. They're asking her about domestic violence. They're asking her about, economics. They're asking her the same kind of questions that we are asking today. If I was going to write to somebody and, for support, for prayer support, to hear me, I'm going to write about the ails of today. What's alive in my world today. And she was doing the same thing. She was, whatever the problems people were having, that's what she was responding to. And I think sometimes that gets lost when all you have is her answer, to somebody. So for me, in bringing that piece, Back to the Future, bringing that forward, is to remind us that that's our work. It's not just, be in prayer, but be in prayer. And what does that look like? She says to go out, to go forth. That's her, she kind of wraps things up with, go forth into the world. She, when the Fillmores got to Missouri in the around 1880, they were in lower Missouri, but around, the mid-late 19th century, there was what they stepped into, and not realizing it, but they stepped into the aftermath of what's called the Mormon Wars. So the Mormons, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, everybody was migrating west, and everybody stopped in Missouri. So the Nazarenes, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Fillmores, just about everybody heading west, and Missouri seemed to be the jumping off point to the wild, wild west. I think that's why they eventually called it the Midwest, because it wasn't quite the real West. But everybody stopped right in the middle. So there's this wonderful syncretism that's going on here in the Midwest, and they stepped into the remnants of the Mormon Wars. And the Mormon Wars was, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints people had been heading west. They stopped in Missouri, and they brought a brand of Christianity that was radically different than mainstay Christianity mid-19th century, and for hundreds of years, that had been here. And what happened is wars occurred, and fighting. And there was even a law in the books that if you saw a Mormon in the streets, you could shoot them on sight. You didn't have to ask any questions. And so that was like 1840. So they step into Missouri 30, 40 years later. For me, I got to know that's still, in the consciousness of that. and bringing, and they start doing, Myrtle starts, continues their own work of spiritual investigation and probably discovers that, okay, I don't like my mother's brand of Christianity. Charles was just constantly seeking something, but how do I find a way to talk about what I'm discovering that's outside the box of traditional Christianity, but yet I know is true for me? I know there's spiritual truth in here. I know there's healing in here because I'm practicing it and I'm experiencing it, but how do I speak about it in a way that, isn't gonna get anybody hurt, or not even that, but how do I speak about it in a way that invites people in to want to know more? In fact, that law of shooting Mormons on sight stayed on the books in Missouri until 1976. Yes. So even just understanding the context in which they stepped into and what do you do with that? For me, I bring that forward in today. We are ripe for talking about things that people don't want to talk about. We are ripe for what does spiritual truth and spiritual practice look like in the context of ugliness, in the context of classism and racism and sexism and xenophobia and. And I think that's, bringing Myrtle forward is going back to what she did do, going back to recognizing what she said and how she said it, and keeping in mind that not everything panned out, not everything was absolute truth, but reading her from the context of ever evolving, let's come back to what do I know, right? Let's come back to healing, is primary. And she was always inviting us to seek healing, always in an invitation to be in service, always that, going forth to bring forth what you believe, and not in and not really in a way that, like when she says to go forth, she says that if I speak truth but I don't do truth, then I have been silent. So if I speak truth, but I don't do truth, then I have been silent. And how that's interpreted, obviously, is, we all get to decide. And I think what she's saying is, to speak truth, I can say what I believe, but now I need to do truth, what does that look like? What does that look like out in the world? How do I be that which I want to see in the world? And that's I think one of our challenges right now in Unity is to, how do I be that which is truth? And whose truth, right? How often do you hear people, well, my truth is, and I'm like, oh, if I hear one more person say, well, my truth, I think we use that as a weapon, frankly. I think we use that term, well, my truth is, as a way to just shut down a conversation. There's a little bomb for you, Teresa. That we use that term, well, my truth is, to really close off because I'm feeling challenged or you're feeling challenged, or, there's tension, friction going on, and where do we go from here? And what Myrtle, I think, demonstrated on more than one occasion, and likely not perfectly, not all the time, was simply to be present, and to reiterate, what truth do I know? Well, what I do know is that God is everywhere present, right? And God is principle, and principle is always everywhere present, and I use that principle. I don't wait around for God to use me. I use God. I use principle. I use that which is already everywhere present to create this world, internal world and external world. She said that healing was a two-step process. The first step one in healing is to believe. And my question always is, what are you believing in? Are you believing in process, or are you believing in outcome? And usually when I ask that a class, I get 1/3 say process, 1/3 say outcome, the other third go, both? Right? So I'm not going to answer it for you, because it is, for me, the answer is yes. And that's one thing that we can bring forward that Myrtle taught us was, on one hand, you read that she says, we're not concerned about outcomes, right? We're not concerned about results. She calls it results. We're not so concerned about results. What we're concerned about is the shift in consciousness that will make the results abiding. Shift in consciousness is process, right? What am I doing? What am I thinking? What am I feeling that needs healing? And then, so that's step one, is believe. Step two is to be open and receptive to the healing stream of life. The healing stream of life is life. It's not just the stuff that feels good. We like to think of healing as the stuff that feels good. The healing stream of life is life. And right now there's a lot of ick. Am I open and receptive to what that is and what that means and how I can be with it and do my healing and, speak truth and then go do truth? There's so much about Myrtle. You can hear in my voice, I get a little bit passionate about it, and I can go on and on and on and on, but I won't. I won't make you suffer through. What I would invite you into is if I'm going to leave something, and, one thing to take on, one thing to practice is that two-step thing. To believe, what am I, believe? And am I believing in outcome or am I believing in process? And I'm not going to tell you which one. One day it could be process, one day it could be outcome. If it's process, then what is your process? Do I believe with committed conviction, with discipline, another one of her favorite words that I don't know most people I meet in Unity, they hear the word discipline, they run screaming from the room like their hair's on fire. Like, discipline, which requires conviction and commitment, and I got to work. Yes, we have to work. But believing in processes, what process am I believing in? Am I believing in a process that invites me to look at what I'm thinking and feeling, to do some cleansing around that? What are the beliefs I hold that keep me from my wholeness, right? And then second part is being open and receptive to the healing stream of life. Anything that I bump up against that irritates me, frustrates me, annoys me, well, that's not my truth, is an invitation for me to look within and what is it that needs healing in me, right? What is it? It's our irritations are the points within us that need healing. And that's where she's inviting us to direct our healing thoughts. Myrtle's process most of us know the cultural story of healing herself of tuberculosis, which there's actually no proof diagnosis she had tuberculosis. She had a lot of ailments. She had a lot of symptoms. And in her day, they were just, when you didn't put a finger on it, there was this collective diagnosis of tuberculosis, having tubercular lungs. But she had abdominal issues. She had arthritis. She had headaches. She had all kinds of things. And her recipe, her process was to start with forgiveness, internal, right? Talk to the body, forgive the self for how we talk to ourselves, how we talk to our body, how we talk to others inside. I can say a lot of things about a lot of people, and outside my face is smiling and pleasant, and like David said at the beginning, big-hearted. I certainly have moments where I look big-hearted, and inside remember from Saturday, Kids in the Hall, I'm squishing you, I'm squishing you. So she starts with forgiveness, and then she moves into words of affirmation and just talks to the cells. So believe, and then be open and receptive to the healing stream of life. Am I believing in process or outcome, whichever? And if the process, am I clear what that process is? And then being open and receptive to the healing stream of life, being open to what is, instead of arguing with reality, being open to what is in front of me, because all of it is there for me, whether I enjoy it or not. It's all there for me. It's all there for my healing. And when I do that, remember, it's a me-we proposition. When I speak truth, then I have to do truth. So now I need to go out and be that, which I don't know about you, but I have a few people in my life that are kind of annoying. And I don't want to do truth because that means I have to engage I'm like, I don't want to work that hard. Stop making me self-reflect. And yet that is the discipline. So that's a little bit about my Myrtle. That's a little bit about bringing Myrtle, back to the future. It's not about, concretizing somebody, one of our co-founders. It's not about, it's taking a few golden nuggets and carrying them forward, which is, I believe, what our co-founders would have wanted. Not an institution, but rather a living, breathing practice for our own healing, individually and collectively. So I'm going to end this with one of my favorite phrases from Myrtle Fillmore. She says, "Divine love through me blesses and multiplies you." Divine love through me blesses and multiplies you. So should we take that into meditation? Take a few minutes and be in the quiet. So if you want to take a deep breath, if you're comfortable, close your outer eyes. Holding the idea that divine love as me, not just through me, but divine love as me. When we engage Unity's second principle, that we are that principle in a unique, unrepeatable configuration. When we claim that, own it, and know it, divine love as me blesses and multiplies you. Just continue to say that to yourself. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies you. So divine love as me. Breathe into that, just that piece. Divine love as me. And notice every time you say that silently, divine love as me. Just keep repeating it and notice where you feel that in your body. Notice any thoughts that come up around it. Notice any physical sensations or emotions and claim them all. It may not always be easy to claim that I am divine love, that I am that. I am divine love. Divine love is me. And if you notice any resistance to it, just simply acknowledge it. Don't push it away. It's already there. Just respond inside yourself. Today I'm doing the very best I can, and I accept myself as I am. And then you say it again, I am divine love. And when you find yourself now or other moments you try this, anything that comes up different, you simply acknowledge. And affirm that I offer myself a large dose of grace. For if we are to know ourselves as divine love, we must forgive the hurtful thoughts we have of ourselves. We must forgive the places of woundedness that keep us from knowing the fullness of that. And so I offer myself a large dose of grace. And I am being the best me I can be. So let's hold that in the stillness for a minute. I offer myself a large dose of grace. I am being the best me I can be as divine love. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies you. So now we hold the second piece, blesses and multiplies you. So hold that thought. What does that feel like when you hear in your mind that I bless and multiply you? How does that feel? What emotions emerge? It's a powerful statement. I bless and multiply you. That means I see the glory, the joy, the awesomeness of another. To bless and multiply another is to see them in all their glory and all their stumbling, and be able to see the divine love that they are, and to know that they are being the best that they can be, just as you are. But remind yourself to bless and multiply those around you. So we'll silently affirm it one more time. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies you. That is our way to speak truth and to go forth and be truth. And so it is, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for your sharing. I offer myself a large dose of grace. I am being the best me as divine love, is what I will personally work with this week. That was really good stuff. Thank you. Also, Myrtle's statement, if I speak the truth but don't do truth, I have been silent. That's powerful. It reminds me of the scripture, James 2, verse 17. So faith by itself is dead. So yeah, faith is knowing truth. For example, the truth that Unity's first principles points to being that there is one presence and one power. And the second, that we are a part of that presence, that power. So thank you, Kelly, for bringing Myrtle's ongoing presence into our midst. And thank you for your direction and encouragement to continue her work on this planet. We appreciate you, Reverend Kelly. I am also delighted that you will be facilitating a conversation with the minister immediately following this service. So this is a chance, folks, for all of us to get our questions answered about our co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore, and find out all kinds of interesting aspects and incidents that occurred on her life while on this earth. As a feminist from the age of 9 and a pioneer bringing forth cutting-edge spirituality, this woman was leap years ahead of her time. So come and take this opportunity to learn more and be inspired to action. So it's easy to join the conversation on Zoom. Just go to unityofwindsor.org. Click on the Zoom classes link and scroll down until you come to the heading Conversations with David. Click on the Zoom meeting link provided there, and Zoom, you're in. It is time for our second song. So much gratitude to Karen Drucker for giving us permission to use her music video, Morning Prayer, I Will Surrender.
I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith, and I am stronger every moment, every day. My mind is willing and my heart is open wide. I trust my instincts and let Spirit be my guide. I vow to live a life that's real and pure and free, as I continue walking in this mystery. I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith, and I am grateful every moment, every day. There may be walls, there may be roadblocks in my way, but I can choose to take a higher path each day. And now I know that what I thought was safe and sound was only habit and regret that held me down. I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith, and I am kinder every moment, every day, and I'm more loving every moment, every will surrender every moment, every day.
Beautiful affirmative prayer and exquisite music. We really appreciate you, Karen. So it is time to acknowledge all who faithfully continue to support Unity Spiritual Center of Windsor with financial donations. These love offerings go a long way to prosper all that we do, all whom we reach out to. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you for remembering to donate each time you are spiritually nourished by our events, classes, and services. It's easy to donate with e-transfer or PayPal. Please use this email address, unitycenterwindsor@gmail.com. Or go to our website, unityofwindsor.org, and click on the blue donate link on the homepage. This will take you to a secure site called Canada Helps, where you can choose to make a one-time love offering or a recurring donation with credit card or debit. Finally, there's the good old-fashioned method of writing out a check and mailing it by the postal service. Our contact information, including address, is found on our website, again, unityofwindsor.org. We bless you and we lift you up in gratitude for your generous support. For those of you who would like to learn more about the classes that we offer and social gatherings online, please refer to our weekly newsletter. If you haven't signed up yet to receive our newsletter and wish to do so, simply email us. Again, it is unitycenterwindsor@gmail.com. We will have you signed up in a jiffy. So let us close our service powerfully with our vision, mission, and statement of being. Our vision: a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. Our mission: we inspire and empower spiritual growth to awaken us and transform the world. Our statement of being: I am a dynamic center of the Christ light, mighty to unfold my good and radiate that good to all. So together, let us pray a blessing over our financial love offerings. Divine love in me and through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Spirit. Let us pray our prayer of protection. Together, the light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is. I am divine. Again, thank you. Much gratitude to Reverend Kelly Isola and to our musicians, Michael Karloff, Eddie Watkins Jr., Karen Drucker. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Go forth.